What's up, guys? I'm Feño. This is the Yearly Prelims podcast, your favorite UFC podcast that kinda randomly disappears sometimes. But we're here to talk about some fights after 2 weeks absence. We just had a pretty decent event with a big main event. We have UFC Fight Night, Machado Garry the Future, Machado the Garry the Future, the EN against Carlos Prates from the Fighting Nerds. So that was a big profile main event. Prates was supposed to fight Jeff Neal in a pay-per-view a few weeks ago. Neal had an injury, I think, or some illness. And Garry stepped up to fight Prates in like a 3 weeks notice, I think. 25 days, so a little bit more than 3 weeks. But yeah, let's get into the main event of this card. So, let me preface this by saying Garry looked very good here. I think he has been turning into more of a controlling, neutralizer kind of fighter now that he's fighting a higher level position. But I think he found the right balance between that and being aggressive and piling up damage with volume in this fight against Prates, who simply could not get going against Garry. The level of activity did not give Prates the space and time that he likes to operate to set up his offense or find the counters that he likes. Garry very active, throwing a lot of head kicks in Prates' way. Prates very responsible with the high guard most of the time. And Garry just putting his kicks together, freezing Prates into place, and doing just a lot of good work with volume. Prates was finding a little bit of success here and there, especially when he decided to kick to the body and when he was trying to counter with his right hand more than his left hand, especially throwing like a long hook jab hybrid over the top of Garry during the counter. He was kind of like bossing Garry a few times, and then you can really start seeing the effects of that punch later in the rounds 4 and 5. The positive for Prates was takedown defense. He again went to that butt drag that he went against Neil Magny and was again very successful with it. Garry was able to find some clean takedowns of some very good entries. I thought the timing for the takedowns for Garry were impeccable, but the form in some of the takedowns were a little bit not great. A lot of what I like to call BJJ takedowns. Instead of shooting an actual mechanically well performed double leg or single leg, Garry would try to go for dropping down to the waist and try to get the outside trip. And same with the single leg. He did kind of complete one of the Malkoun single that was firstly popularized by Dana Cormer. We have talked about this takedown in the past, but it's a single leg where you go for an inside trip because when your opponent is against the cage, usually that never works in wrestling because you have space to just hop backwards with your leg to avoid it being tripped. But in MMA, especially against the fence, when they don't have space to move around, it's usually very successful. But Prates was pretty decent off his back, at moments a little bit passive, but then he was using butterfly hooks. He was trying to get to wall walk positions. He was responsible about giving out his back without allowing Garry to get the hooks or the body triangle in. So good grappling by Prates. I was surprised by the wrestling and the grappling here. Because you would expect going into this fight for Garry to be the more complete fighter, and that was the case. But then round 4, Prates starts to get to Garry more and more, and both guys are very tired. And then in round 5, again, the butt drag, they get into a rolling position. Prates assumes top control and he hurts Garry bad with some a very few clean shots from top position. Garry looks very hurt, but he recovers very quickly. But he's still not very great optics for Garry in that final round, going for a lot of takedowns, getting denied, getting hit by Prates. Prates too tired to get the finish there. So yeah, you get. If you're being very caritative to Prates, I think you can score that 47-47, a draw. you can give that 10-8 to Prates in the fifth round. I don't think that's insanely crazy. Because like he was hurt very bad. You look at the optics, like he was crawling on all fours to get there. Like that's not normal behavior for a guy that wasn't hurt. And like the current criteria is not as strict with 10-8s, even though the judges are not giving them anymore. but yeah, I mean, other than that, like round 4 was close. You can give it to Prates, but you can also argue like very, very easily a 49-46 situation in favor of Garry. So good win for Garry. Prates looked kind of bad for most of this fight, but this was not like a complete like fraud check. I think he's still a lot of trouble for a lot of the division. Garry announced after the fight that he will be the backup for the fight between Belal Mohamed and Jack Della Maddalena. That is just like 2 weeks from now. And it seems like Dana White confirmed that. So good for him, man. You can say a lot about Garry. I know that his personality annoys a lot of people, but at the same time, he's like one of the like least bigoted fighters, or so it seems. He gets a lot of hate from the conservatives, and he's also a white guy, so a lot of like the white lives like really love Ian Garry. I think he's kind of cool of a person. He's kind of great in the personality, but he's a very good fighter. Not like super my vibe, but he's fine and he's very, very good. I think Garry like has a very good shot of being a world champion. Like, and I was not expecting that when he came to the UFC. I think he has improved so much. So yeah, Garry just looking great as of late. I wish he was a bit more damaging, more dangerous, but he's developing into a very good fighter, and the way it is, I feel like he's a bad matchup for Belal, to be honest. And he could be maybe a bad matchup for Jack Della, and we saw that the Shavkat fight, it's probably winnable, so Garry very well positioned to be world champion, and I don't know, I'll be honest here, I wasn't seeing it when he got to the UFC. I knew that he has some good qualities, but I thought like this kid's so far from his potential fighting the UFC. He's not going to be able to like fulfill it. I have talked about guys being rushed to the UFC and that being detrimental to their development, but that wasn't the case here. To be fair, the UFC gave him like a decent amount of like low tier level welterweights, and he was like making a constant improvement, and now we see the results. Like Ian Garry, one of the best welterweights in the world, like no questions asked. Very good for him. And Prates, like this was still encouraging if he can make some adjustments, if he can like work on what didn't work in this fight. I think he's still like a top player for sure in the welterweight division. Our co-main event saw the last fight of Anthony Lionheart Smith fighting against rising Chinese prospect, the Mountain Tiger Mingyan Zhang. And yeah, what we all thought was like either Anthony Smith lands a big counter or gets a takedown, or Mingyan Zhang is going to work him because he's like super violent. And Mingyan Zhang worked. This was like a decent fight. They were exchanging elbows at some moment. Like Mingyan Zhang was going crazy with the elbows, and Anthony Smith using like the double hand fight to land elbows from wrist control. So that was cool by Anthony Smith. But Anthony Smith absorbing a lot of calf kicks and then the elbows. Then he went for a back takedown, and Mingyan Zhang just like blast him on the ground. Great for the Chinese. They made a big package for Anthony Smith for his retirement, and I have some like mixed feelings about it. I don't want to put Anthony Smith down here, saying like, oh, he's overrated, this and that. But the UFC is like throwing a party at him, maybe because he didn't take that W against John Jones, ruining the streak of John Jones at light heavyweight. Maybe there's a bit of that, or maybe it's because like Anthony Smith is a guy that works the desk, that is a good mouthpiece for the UFC. But I wish like more fighters got this treatment. I'm not saying Anthony Smith doesn't deserve it. I think a lot more other fighters also deserves this treatment, like the big video package, a last fight, maybe not against like a good matchup, because this wasn't a good matchup as it turned out to be, but against like a crowd that appreciates you and get the send off that you deserve. So yeah, I'm not saying like I'm very happy for Anthony Smith. I think he deserved this, and I hope we see more of this, and not only for the fighters that are on very good terms in the UFC. I feel like the UFC is very, very confident that Anthony Smith is going to stick to this retirement, so they feel like confident doing this, but they still like make him lose his last fight just in case, the UFC is kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, good stuff. Mingyan Zhang, very exciting for 205, man. Very exciting to see him do his stuff, man. I think the ceiling is very high. His hips look very strong in that defending that takedown. And he's a violent man. So I'm all for it. I like Mingyan Zhang, man. David Onama fought Giga Chikadze. This came to takedowns in rounds 2 and 3. On the first round, both guys hurt each other. Onama got a late takedown but didn't do anything with it, so that's a round for Giga. But Onama was doing some good stuff, but Giga, who apparently had like 3 surgeries the time he was out, he was still looking fast and dangerous. Takedown defense maybe didn't look as good as it has in the past. Onama got some key takedowns on round 2 and 3. Maybe I think it's round 3 that is kind of contentious for fans, as some think that Onama didn't do enough from top position and maybe Giga should have taken the decision. I think the decision was fine. Onama didn't land much, but he did land a couple of like very solid blows from top position, and I scored those highly. Yeah, you connect hard from top position even if it's close guard. Like that's a completely non-defended shot that you gotta score. So I think it's a very solid win for Onama. I like to see some movement at 145. Not that Giga did not earn his spot in the top 15, but I still like to see some movement here. Abus Magomedov fought Michel Pereira. Pereira looked like trash in this one, and a lot of people don't realize that Abus Magomedov is like a perfectly fine middleweight. Like they all remember that he got finished fighting short notice Sean Strickland, and he got like super tired in like inside the round. He was kind of giving the business to Strickland before getting tired though, but yeah, I mean, he has improved the cardio. He's still not great, and I'm not saying like, oh, Abus is like the secret, the dark horse of the division, not anything like that, but he has like a solid, well put together skill set. He's a very big dude for the division, and the cardio issues are not that bad. So fighting against another guy who has like cardio issues, but maybe like more physical talent in Michel Pereira, but less of a gas tank, we saw Abus taking over, man. Round 2 was kind of close, but 1 and 3, especially 1, very clear for Abus Magomedov. Randy Brown fought Nicholas Dalby. He smashed his nose bad in the first round, I think with a very long right hand. They fixed the nose between between the rounds, the corner did, for Dalby, so good job for the corner, man. Dalby hurt Randy Brown at the end of round 1 after getting his nose hurt, and was doing like decent damage with some kicks, but then they started getting into some wild exchanges in round 2. Randy Brown put Dalby out with a right hook inside the pocket, like very close to what we saw from Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje. And Dalby like face planted, like very similar to Gaethje. Crazy knockout. So good for Randy Brown, who I thought looked pretty good against Ryan Battle, and like he lost that fight on fight IQ more than anything, but good for him, man. And Dalby, like, he was on a very good run, and sadly it comes to an end here. Ikram Aliskerov fought Andre Muniz. Muniz didn't have anything for Aliskerov. Aliskerov gets the finish with a left hook off like a level change, weighed like half a bit, and nails Andre Muniz, who fell to the ground with like a delayed reaction that was kind of scary to see. So good for Ikram to get back into the winning column. He's a player at 185, I think. Matt Chanel came back from retirement to fight Jimmy Flick. Didn't watch this one wholly, and it sucks because apparently it was one of the best fights of the night. Jimmy Flick was like laying on top of him during round 1, but then round 2, Schnell got a reversal. Then 3 was crazy, Schnell going for a lot of guillotines. I think Flick was also going for guillotines, so kind of a crazy fight. Evan Elder fought Gage Young. Gage Young looked decent, but Evan Elder is like legit at 155, I feel. One of the most overlooked guys in the division, and he looked very solid here. Very good kicking technique here. My boy, Chris Gutierrez, fought just Castañeda, and man, Gutierrez is such a head case. Like, you saw at times like how good Gutierrez is, and then you remembered why he's not like reaching the heights. Because like, he just spends a lot of time like thinking what he can do instead of just throwing, and some baffling decisions all the time. First round he lost the round because like he threw like a body kick to the close side from super close and slipped, and up on his back. Castañeda took advantage of that. But then Guti, like on round 2, also concedes a takedown, and he used like a no-gi de la Jiva, like entanglement to get to his feet again. And you can tell like Gutierrez has good jiu-jitsu, but he has like that good jiu-jitsu that's kind of bad for MMA. Like he should stop going to like regional tournaments and like get more concerned with getting up and landing ground and pound from top position. That's how I feel. Some bad takedown entries for Chris Gutierrez too that got him like hit in transition. He was still like landing the jab, the leg kicks, and like won rounds 2 and 3 like very wide, to be honest. But he almost got robbed. Castañeda's corner was trying to work the judges like, oh, great body shot, when he was landing anything. And all the time, he's tired, he wants out. And as a fan of Chris Gutierrez, that was very annoying. But yeah, man, this was not very encouraging as a Chris Gutierrez fan. I like him a lot, but he's not putting it together lately, man. I thought he looked physically very decent at 145 though. Like he looked huge here, like way bigger than Castañeda. Didn't take much advantage of the size advantage though. Talking about actual bantamweights, because that was a bantamweight fight that was like made at 145 because these guys both like already waiting for a pay-per-view like 2 weeks ago, so they let him fight at 145. At 135 we had Damon Blackshear against Aletan Haley. Best performance of Blackshear in the UFC here, especially when it comes to the striking. Looking very active. Kind of similar to what Ian Garry was doing in the main event, like just keeping very active, good shot selection, moving away from shots. A bit more on the aggressive, a bit more on the front foot than Garry, but similar with staying active. And something to look for, because both guys have spent time at Killcliff MMA with Henry Hooft. I think Garry spent some time at Hoofs again for this camp after not doing it for a while. Gary's main camp at the moment is Shoot the Box Diego Lima, and he had Demian Maia in his corner. Blackshear is at full time on Killcliff, I think. Haley had his moments, he's very tough, and he was like, when he was putting combinations together, he was kind of exploiting some of the bad tendencies from Blackshear, especially like just covering up, and now that Haley was finding some body shots, but he wasn't urgent enough, and Blackshear was like doing good stuff to regain the center of the cage, and just remaining very active and using his length to frustrate Aletan Haley, who is kind of like foot slow. But it was a solid scrap, very good for Damon Blackshear. Never been a fan, but this was a very good performance, I think, and I feel like this is the most structured and technical that he has looked on the feet so far. Malcolm Wellmaker fought Cameron Simon. They were having a decent scrap. Simon was like being more active, being more like creative, but then they got into a crazy exchange. Wellmaker, beautiful counter right hook, like a back foot loaded right hook, transferring weight from front to back. I've talked a lot about the two ways of throwing your lead hook, throwing your weight forward or backwards. Here this was like what they like to call the king of counters, the lead hook going back. You just put so much power into that. Cameron Simon, crazy dive after getting hit with that. This was some Johnny Walker knockout shit. But yeah, I mean, Wellmaker's real, man. Very good for him. And Simon, man, after being undefeated, he's on a very rough losing streak right now. Hopefully he can bounce back, because I feel like he's a good element for the division. Jacqueline Amorim fought Poliana Viana. Poliana Viana has never seen an underhook that she wanted to take when defending takedowns. So easy to take down. Amorim, a very solid grappler. Got the rear naked choke on round 2. Not much else to say. Timmy Kwamba fought Roberto Romero. Very solid fight. Kwamba just got like the superior boxer by a good margin, finding the counter strikes, and then on round 2 got more aggressive, landed a partial head kick, and finished the fight with a flying knee. Good stuff by Kwamba, man. And the stoppage kind of early, but Romero had like very very bad optics on the ground. He was like like ass up, face down with an arm trap when Kwamba was going for the ground pound. So I can understand the referee, even though Roberto Romero seems to be fine just immediately after the stoppage. But I can understand it, man. Happy for Kwamba. He seems like a very solid fighter, and it wasn't quite working for him in the UFC until now. But he finally gets his UFC W. Happy for him, man. And the opener was Jocelyn Edwards against Chelsea Chandler. Chandler had nothing for Edwards. This is the best Jocelyn Edwards has looked so far in her career. Never been a big fan of her. All her fights are like stereotypical, like 135 women's fight, where like ugly takedowns, bad top control, sloppy striking. But here Edwards like aggressive on the feet, like not super accurate, but she was like throwing heat with the rear kick to the body, to the head, and then just went for it when she had Chandler against the cage and gets the finish with strikes. So good for Jocelyn Edwards, because I feel like she's very athletic, she's big for the division, she has potential, and if she's going to develop from here on like this, like she could be a player in the division. Okay, so let's get into some fight announcements. These are in like in no particular order, so this might be a bit front loaded, but let's get into the first one. Kamaru Usman is back at welterweight after taking a short notice fight against Khamzat Chimaev at 185. That was like a while ago though. And he's fighting Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley is still on that beating the old man tour, but if Kamaru looks like anything like he has in the past, he should be a very bad fight for Buckley, but I'm not counting on that. To be fair, like Kamaru did look decent against Chimaev, and you gotta consider that Usman was expecting to take a fight at 170 at the time, so he was not like bulking to 185, while Chimaev was probably over 200 pounds. So all things considered, I feel like Usman did well, and I think Usman won that fight, to be honest too. So yeah, but still a scary fight for Usman, I feel. I'm still not sold on Buckley being like an elite welterweight. I think Buckley has like kind of nothing for the top guys. I would not pick Buckley for against Garry, against Prates, against Jack Della, against Brady, against Belal. I don't think. But he has the physicality, the physical talent, and if he has the takedown defense, he has power, man. He has power, and he has decent cardio for such a like thickly muscled guy. So Buckley is he's a live dog all the time, even against the top guys. I would never pick him against the top guys, but I can't deny that Buckley has a decent shot against anyone, and that's the case in this fight too. What else we have? Okay, my boy Dustin Poirier gets his retirement fight. He fights Max Holloway. This is the main event for UFC 318 on July 19th. This is for the BMF title, I think. Who cares about that? This is a main event. The third fight of... They finally get the trilogy. If you guys remember, Max Holloway made his debut in the UFC against Dustin Poirier. He got submitted with an armbar triangle. Then they got the rematch for the interim 155 title in what is, in my opinion, the best MMA fight of all time. Just my favorite. And now I think this is the perfect send-off for Dustin. I'm still nervous. I love Max Holloway, but I really want Dustin to win this last one to give me the last joy of his career. I'm riding with Dustin hard on this one. But yeah, I mean, this is a great fight, man. Kind of scared that Dustin might lose this one. At least he will go like being up 2-1 if he loses this one against Max. But yes, it's a tremendous fight. We're all going to enjoy it. Hopefully this is not like a super early knockout. That would be kind of sad. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Dustin Poirier, for your career. And thank you, Max Holloway, too, man. This is great. This is great. No, I'm not going to complain about this. What else we have at lightweight 2? We have Rafael Fiziev against Ignacio Bahamondes, my countryman, and I don't like this fight for Fiziev, man. Bahamondes, a lot of volume, super long. The height discrepancy in this one is going to go nuts. Bahamondes was beat by a short king in Klein, only 3 fights ago. And there's something funny about the matchmaking here. We'll talk about that later when we get to that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not sure I like this fight. Maybe Fiziev was right about moving to 145, and maybe they want him to move to 145 because they are making this fight. But yeah, I think this is very winnable for Bahamondes. So expect Bahamondes to keep climbing the rankings here. And yeah, let's talk about this other fight, because this is very funny matchmaking to me. So we have Mateusz Gamrot against Ludovic Klein. As I mentioned, Klein beat Ignacio Bahamondes not long ago. And Bahamondes has been getting super favorable matchmaking. He got a striker to get inside the top 15 against and a striker that was on a losing streak against Jalen Turner. Now he gets another striker to keep climbing up the rankings. So Bahamondes loses in a grappling heavy fight against Klein. He gets rewarded with nothing but strikers moving up the rankings, while Klein gets one of the hardest wrestlers to fight on the rankings as his ticket to get inside. Instead of getting a striker, I think why not make Klein versus Fiziev and make Bahamondes versus Gamrot, right? It's you can tell where the preferences are. The UFC is clearly not huge fans of Klein. Or at least that's how I see it. This is unwinnable for Klein? I don't think so. He might win, but it's a lot rougher. To be fair, Fiziev is not an easy fight for Klein. It feels like the matchup is a lot better for Bahamondes than it is for Klein, but it still would be a striker bout between guys that are kind of short. Would be more fair. But yeah, man, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because Klein is the guy that won the fight against Bahamondes, and he's not getting the same treatment. But then again, I understand Bahamondes has he's moving the Chilean crowd behind him, and he has been getting the spectacular knockouts that Klein has failed to get at 155. So there's that too, right? What else we have? We have the polar bear. Sergey Spivak is fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta. Cortez Acosta coming off that big win against Ryan Spann in his heavyweight debut in the UFC. Interesting wrestler test for Cortez Acosta, to be honest. Not a lot else much to say here. What else we have? We have Sodiq Yusuff against Myron Santos. Myron Santos, Ultimate Fighter winner. He got a win not long ago in a pay-per-view. And Sodiq Yusuff. And the interesting part about this fight is that both guys are moving up to 155 here. Myron Santos was not long ago fighting at 135. If you can go back and watch his LFA fights, he was fighting at bantamweight. But he seems like the body is maturing. He's a pretty decently well-sized 145er. Not sure if he's big enough for 155. Maybe he's heavier than he looks. And Sodiq has always been one of the bigger 145ers. He's fucking big. I think he was 167 for one of his fights. Or was he over 170? I don't remember, but Sodiq is very heavy, very big featherweight, so it makes sense for him, to be honest, especially if he feels like he's having drawbacks in the durability. This should be a very good fight, by the way. Talking about 145ers that are very big, we have Julian Erosa against Melqui Salacosa, and yes, I'm aware that this is a fight between guys that beat my boy Christian Rodriguez. Do not talk about that in my presence, please. But yeah, this is a solid scrap, man. I think I'm favoring Erosa, just being longer. And I don't think that Melky is going to be like super successful with takedowns in this one. But Melky's a nasty kicker from the outside, so Julian needs to watch out for that. What else we have? Nassim Sadikov is fighting Nicolas Mota. This one is a banger, man. Like, Mota has been like improving a lot in Extreme Couture. Sadikov fights out of like a longer weight, man, and he's very solid. Had a very good fight against Elder, who we talked about earlier, in one of the most underrated bangers in the Apex era of the UFC. This one should be all action. Favoring Sadikov, but Mota is live, man. He's powerful. He has been improving. Just a very fun fight. What else we have? This is sad hours. We have Vicente Luque fighting against Kevin Holland. I know Luque won his last fight against Tempa Gorimbo. You can see my reaction if you go back to watch the fight companion. But yeah, I don't like this fight for Luque. Kevin Holland, coming off that win against Gunnar Nelson, gets Luque now. Luque has a shot. Like, we have seen Luque beat this kind of fight, especially the most similar fight was Randy Brown, but that was like, how long ago was that? Like 5 years ago? I don't remember, but yeah, I feel like Kevin Holland is just bad for Luque at this stage unless Luque can get takedowns. Maybe there's an avenue there. What else we have? We have Jared Gordon against Thiago Moises. Like, just solid lightweights, veterans going at it. Gordon has like a very decent boxing advantage here, but maybe Moises can get something going with the leg kicks and fighting out of a longer range, more in bursts. If they grapple, that's very interesting. Like, Gordon has been grappling with the Danaher crowd for a long time. He hasn't showed a lot of that in the UFC yet, and Moises is like a very, very good grappler, so it's a solid fight. What else we have? Gavin Tucker is finally back. He's fighting Young Lee. Young Lee looked very solid against Blake Builder. Then he got like blasted in his last fight against Haider Amiel, I think. And Tucker, very cool skill set. Durability has been super hit and miss, and he has failed to stay healthy in his UFC run, man. So, but yeah, I mean, I always keep my eye on Gavin Tucker. He's very cool. And Young Lee is cool too, man. What else? This one makes me sad too, man. We have Gilbert Durinho Burns against Michael Morales. Morales is solid, man. He's like Gary if Gary wasn't like super smart. But he's like maybe more physically gifted, like bigger, stronger. Burns, I don't know if he can win this one. Like, he doesn't have the volume anymore. He maybe will try to wrestle. And Gilbert's a very solid wrestler, but he's getting kind of old. Burns is not super big for 170. Especially as a former 155er. I know that was like years ago, but frame-wise, this is a guy that was able at one moment to make 155. Morales is fucking huge. Morales has a jab too that could be annoying for Burns. Burns will probably try to cross counter and counter with the left hook, but Morales is so long that he might be able to avoid the counters. I don't know. I don't like this fight. What else we have? Vitor Petrinos moving up to heavyweight. He's fighting Austin Lane. I just wish that Petrino looks fucking huge at 265. That's all I want. I'm not going to talk about technique here. I just think like Petrino has a fantastic physique, and hopefully he doesn't get like fat. He just get like fucking huge and joked and roided as fuck when he moves to heavyweight. That's all I have to say. Oh, this is big. Kyoji Horiguchi finally makes his return to the UFC after so many years after being a champion in Rising. I think he was Bellator champion too. And now he's fighting Tagir Ulanbekov. Like, not a super high profile fight. This is going to go on at UFC Baku, so Ulanbekov will have like the home crowd advantage here. But yeah, huge to have Kyoji back. Kyoji, who trains with our current flyweight champion Alexander Pantoja, but both have said that they are okay with fighting each other if it is for the title. So, welcome back, Kyoji Horiguchi. We miss you so much. Jamal Hill and Khalil Roundtree has been rescheduled. This is apparently the main event of UFC Baku. I think the 5 rounds favor Jamal Hill, but he needs to be careful early because Roundtree is a powerhouse. But this is a very solid 205 fight between the sons of Poatan Pereira. I guess I need to mention that. Which I guess that makes them the grandsons of Ankalaev, right? What else we have? Cody Brundage is being used as an enhancement talent, as a jobber again for Mansour Abdul Malik. Actually, this is a very solid test for Abdul Malik, but kind of rough that they just like give Cody Brundage these like super dangerous prospects, and then they allow him to win a fight here and there, or maybe sometimes he upsets some of these guys. But yeah, this is like seems like a bad match. A bad fight for Brundage. Brundage does have the wrestling, does have power, and Abdul Malik, for all his physical talents, he does has some sketchy moments. So this is good matchmaking. It's just like kind of rough for Brundage, I feel. What else we have? We have Ovan Elliott fighting Ramiz Brahimaj. Elliott has been very solid in his UFC run and has been improving. Brahimaj looked career best beating the shit out of Mickey Gall in his last fight. I always thought that Brahimaj was like super mid, but he looked actually good in that last fight. This is a fight between both guys that are very well rounded. Both guys can wrestle, both guys can strike. Brahimaj now training at Killcliff. I don't know where Ovan Elliott trains at, but he's very good, man. So this is a very solid fight between welterweights that could maybe look to get into the rankings in the future. What else? Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer has been rescheduled. This is going on June 7th. These guys were supposed to fight in the Mexico event, but Joe Pyfer fell victim to the water of Mexico. And he's never coming back to that shithole of a country. Shut up, man. But yeah, it's whatever. I think Joe Pyfer is going to win, man. Like, it gives me a little more hope that he got sick with the Mexican water. Maybe Gastelum can actually win this one. But what is Gastelum doing, especially at this stage, up at 185, man? Jonathan Diniz is fighting Justin Tafa. Make with that information whatever you want. Should be a solid striking scrap at heavyweight, to be honest. Like, I'm not against this. This is going on a pay-per-view. And for prelims in a pay-per-view, this is a solid heavyweight because they are, at least they are going to scrap, and they know how to scrap. This is not going to be like a super boring like heavyweight slopfest. Do we still have some announcements? And finally, we have, Ariane Da Silva, whom most of you, I think, is still known as Ariane Lipski. She's fighting Wang Kong, and Wang Kong is still getting, like, the bounce-back treatment from the UFC, like Bruno Brazil, and now a very similar matchup in Ariane Lipski. Very similar, in fact. Like, I feel like Wang Kong is going to have a field day here, unless Lipski can make something happen, maybe get like a takedown using her very solid wizard kick. And Lipski has some power, has some knees, she has some tools, but I feel like we gotta favor Wang Kong here. And with that, we move to this Saturday event. We have a big main event at 135. We have Corey Sandhagen against Davison Figueiredo. So Sandhagen coming off that Umar Nurmagomedov loss, and Figueiredo coming from that Pierre Yan loss in a fantastic fight, by the way. So yeah, Corey is still in that journey of like becoming also kind of a neutralizer, not taking much risk, like revamping his game to be a lot safer, a lot more methodical, more intelligent, you might say. And Figueiredo has adapted very well to 135. He's still a huge puncher there, more of a wrestler. I think Sandhagen is going to be winning like minutes consistently. He might lose a big moment here and there for Figueiredo, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Sandhagen very hard to finish. Although we only have seen him finish by the rear naked choke of Aljamain Sterling. I don't think Figueiredo is going to sub him easily unless he hurts him super bad. Hopefully this is a more aggressive performance by Sandhagen here. To be honest, I haven't been super happy with what Sandhagen has been doing lately. I know he's doing it because he feels like this is improvement for him, but don't really like the direction. I think Figueiredo still has a lot going for 135. I'm still predicting Sandhagen to win here. Our co-main event is pretty big for middleweight. We have René de Rider against Bo Nickel, the most entertaining guy in the world, said no one ever. but yeah, this is very compelling because de Rider is a very good grappler. And on the feet, he's rough, but he's aggressive. He can take a punch. He's gritty. And Bo Nickel probably has like a technical striking advantage as long as it is clean. But if it gets ugly, like who knows? But to be honest, like there is a very good grappler, but I feel like Bo Nickel can still probably go for takedowns and be fine, especially with the American top team backing behind him. He probably has some good like training partners to train like top position and be safe. This is Bo Nickel's fight to win, and that would be very impressive. Like Bo Nickel, I think Bo Nickel is not fun to watch. I think he's the most boring person to ever listen to, but you cannot deny he's a top talent. He has been developing well, like not developing into exciting fighter, but a fighter that can beat most middleweights, and I think he can probably beat the Rider here. We have Santiago Poncinibio against Daniel Rodriguez. This is jank weight. This is jank weight. This is pure jank weight. I'm paging my guy Dan Tom here because we have a jank weight fight alert here. I don't know, man. Poncinibio has been looking very old. He's still scrappy, man, and D-Rod is also like looking pretty watched, to be honest. This is going to be open stance, so we'll see what how does Poncinibio approach it, because like all Poncinibio does in this late career is just like 1-2s and 2-3s, and we'll see if he does that same stuff or he approaches more like conventional open stance tactics against the southpaw here in Rodriguez. Montel Jackson is fighting Daniel Marcos, and this one is great. Marcos is still undefeated, man. In his career at 17-0. Montel Jackson has been looking dynamite as of late, so we'll see, man. Montel Jackson has hands the size of a head. He's a huge bantamweight, and maybe the biggest one, and hits like a truck. He's very solid. He has a 1-2. Very hard to grappler because his hands are huge. He's like the most serious meme guy because he's not like stupid in any way, but he's just like, but he's still like a meme person. Marcos is like a very solid striker, coming off that like very close fight against Adrian Yanez. I don't know, Marcos solid, man. We have a banger at 135 as well. We have Cameron Smotherman, trainer partner of my boy Trey. He's fighting Seri Sidi, and this fight is great, man, because Sidi is gritty. He pushes forward, has a lot of volume, can grapple too. And Cameron is like super clean with the boxing. He has good footwork. I'm expecting Sidi to move forward here, and Cameron to try to move on the outside and try to find some counters. Jeremy Stephens is back in the UFC, and so is Mason Jones, and they fighting against each other. This might be a retirement fight for Stephens because this is like close to his hometown, if not in his hometown, if I'm not mistaken. Mason Jones has been killing it in Cage Warriors. I don't know. To be honest, he was very solid in his UFC run too. So, but Stephens, even at this age, he's a fucking dog, man. So this one is going. I think this is pretty much like fireworks guaranteed. These guys are both like they both are dogs. They are going to leave it all on the line, especially if this is like a retirement fight for Stephens. So bar like an early stoppage, this one is going to be a very stupid fight, and I like it. Yana Santos, formerly Kunitskaya, for those that name doesn't ring a bell, he's fighting Misha Tate. Misha Tate's still fighting, apparently. Okay. Asamat Bekoyev is fighting Ryan Loader in a middleweight fight. I don't remember either of these guys, I'll be honest. Marina Rodriguez is fighting Gillian Robertson, classic striker versus grappler matchup. Marina has not been looking great as of late, and she's kind of old, so maybe Gillian is going to be able to win this. But Gillian also like not super improved on the feet. Like she has been improving like constantly technically, but she never looks like super comfortable on the feet, and she's kind of slow too. We'll see. We have a fight between Gaston Bolaños and Quang Lee. Banger, to be honest, at 135. 135 never fails, man. This is going to be a striking banger. And can't tell you much other than that. Dontel Mace is fighting Thomas Peterson. Dontel Mace was ranked for a few weeks for some reason. Peterson's very solid, man. He got killed by Shamil Gassiev in his last fight, but I still think Thomas Peterson is very solid. A solid southpaw striker. Not super in the like not super big for heavyweight, but he has that wrestling background. And Dontel Mace is like fine, I guess. He knows how to do a little bit of everything, even though everything is a bit sloppy. And the opener is Juliana Miller against Ivana Petrovic. I don't have anything to say about that, I think. So yeah, that's the event and that's the podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll be back with a live stream during the week, so we can do a little bit of a Q&A. I'll probably be playing some video games, so watch out for that. I'll be back on Saturday to do Fight Companion. We had a lot of fun during the last 2 Fight Companions, so consider joining the chat during the fights if you don't want to listen to Joe Rogan or whoever the UFC has calling fights during that day. I'm always live during the main cards, so yeah, look out for that. And also I have a video about MMA stances coming out later this week, hopefully tomorrow. I've been working on that, a lot of editing going on for that one, so I'm excited, very excited about that fight actually. So yeah, that's it. Remember guys that if you want to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon, get exclusive access to a lot of content that it's not available anywhere else. You sometimes get early access or complete version of some videos that I cannot put on YouTube. And if you want to support in any other form, you can head over to our store, links in the description to get your Body Punching Crew t-shirt or hoodie or whatever. And we have other cool designs, non-branded, fight-related designs that do not look like shit, made by yours truly. So if you want to get something in return for exchange of your support, you can get one of those. And that's for the podcast. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be catching you on the next one. Bye.